And you're doing quite a bit of these, so it makes more sense to have a location that's close to you.
So maybe one day, I'll get a place. So we'll see. But hey, man, I'm loving the shirt, bro. I'm
Right?
loving the
See,
shirt.
I am a fan. I am a fan. Like you said, I am a fan. So this is
Perfect.
actually, it's actually only the second time I've worn this shirt. And I thought, man, I have other aliens t-shirts, but I forgot I had this buried down. My wife is going to get mad at me and tell me at some point I'm going to have to make a quilt out of all the t-shirts that I don't use because I have so many t-shirts.
Hmm.
So it's like I buy one and she goes, you need to get rid of it. So I bury it and I'm there, shoving stuff into my dresser drawer to kind of hide it back there. And I was like, oh, I forgot I had this shirt. It's like, what a perfect opportunity. So
Yeah, I'm always like, it's either a plain shirt or it's a Captain America shirt or it's a Nightwing shirt.
well,
Like it's everything in my drawer. And then I do have some Wee Bear ones, but that's a different story.
Wee Bear, okay.
Yeah, Wee Bear. It was so funny. The very first one we did, which whenever it airs, this will give a hint. But the first one I did was with this buddy of mine, Mark Durrett, and the day was just one of those days that so much is going on. And so I just went with what I was wearing to do this video. And all of a sudden I look at myself and I'm wearing like a baseball cap. You can't see I have cargo shirts, but I have this Wee Bears, internet famous t-shirt with this big bear on I'm like, what am I wearing? But it was okay. After a while, I was like, that's right. I'm not doing these sequentially. I'm just kind of doing them randomly. So hopefully somebody will be like, why is he wearing it this time? And not, is this our host?
Make this full.
Hey, everybody. We've got Gilberto here. Say hi, Gilberto. What happened? I used to have a Spanish accent. I've been in Houston too long.
Well, you can just call me G if you want. That's what a lot of people do. They have the same trouble you have. Is it Gil? Is it, no, I'm not a fish. Is it Gilberto? Gilberto? Gil? And it's like, who does that?
Gilberto?
So people just started calling me G. So whatever.
All right, G. So
there you go.
Well, G, you have decided to be on the show. We have a lot of fun. And the way I like to start them is just kind of talk about how we know each other. Now, my recollection is back when I worked for Apple as an Apple sales guy out of one of the local computer stores that doesn't exist anymore. One of my customers like, hey, you should join this kind of like creatives group of publishers and not CGI, but like computer people who are using Adobe professionally. It's a Mac group of these people. You should come do that. And you were in that group. And then as time went on and you found out what I was doing and I found out what you were doing, it was kind of our hobbies were fringe. I'm making movies and I need somebody who has fun making posters. I'm making posters, but I need somebody who I can make posters for.
Yep.
I mean, it's very
a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah, very simplified, but that's essentially kind of what happened. Is that it was just this weird like, hey, do you do these things? And I think you knew I was doing the movies at the time. As we started getting to know each other, and we just kind of became friends from there. Am I missing something? Was I an idiot back then?
No, you hit the nail on the head. Plus, maybe the fact that I was an Apple fanboy too, and it was like, what? You work in the Apple area, and you make movies, which I love to watch and probably produce at some point. Of course, yeah, I want to get involved with this guy. So yeah, it was, and I think your personality too is what drew me to you, because you have such a charismatic attitude and a little arrogant at times, but I think that's the sweet and sour of your personality that I appreciate.
Sometimes. All the time. Well, and it actually kind of funny because I remember when I first got that job, and that was the big thing, is that there had never been an Apple person there. And
That's
this
right.
is before the Apple stores were everywhere. And I remember Paul Vaughn, I think, was writing
Paul
for
Vaughn.
the San Antonio.
Paul Vaughn was in it with Georgianne. And
yeah, well, he was writing for the Express News.
Yep.
And he actually did an article on me. And I was in the paper, and then people would come in like with that article in hand and be like, where is he? Where is he? Looking for him, because they were just so excited to have somebody knowledgeable Apple products. And I just remember my buddy, I was like, dude, you have to see this, and send it to him. And he's just like, what is with these people? Like, they're painting you out to be some, because it was like, now enter Matthew Hasso, Apple guy, and just like this whole, he was just like, dude, it was because it was months.
Well, yeah, and it was
and people
interesting
would just keep
because
showing up with that.
you were saying that, we were part of this professional creative group that used Adobe products, but most of us were on Apple products.
Yeah.
So, using that, not that you can't use Adobe products on a PC, but, it's a very tight knit group, and to pull you into that. And plus you were we were very fortunate that you allow us to go in there and meet in your area too, but, classroom and stuff it was just a really good meet. So
Well,
I
and
mean,
this is 17 years ago, 18
gosh,
years ago.
I think
I know, it's a little painful.
I think longer than that.
Yeah,
I think longer
it's
than
got to
that.
be at least. So this is like, I think if you truly used Adobe software professionally, most people were like, "You ain't doing it on a PC." And then it
Yeah.
changed within the years after that, and now it's like it doesn't matter. But at that time, Adobe and Apple were almost synonymous.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think Premiere was on the PC at the time. Like there were some of the products that you couldn't even get on the PC. And
Well,
it
and it's
was,
interesting. It's interesting you bring that up too, because I think, that was just my gateway to you. And then when I
yeah,
found out that you were an actor and you were actively producing movies and you were in movies and learning, back in the day, Final Cut Pro 7 and Final Cut Pro Express. And that's when, I started really understanding what you were doing. And it just drew me to that area, because there weren't a lot of people. I dabbled in making little movies and stuff because I am a big fanboy of movies and stuff. And then when I found out you were doing it, I was like, wow, maybe this guy. And then that's what sparked our relationship, our friendship, which I appreciate to this day.
oh, we have a lot of fun. What is the what's the term that I coined for you? Not for you, but the what was it?
Oh, when
Mouse?
you were teaching me how to use, this is a funny story because, like I said, Matthew knew Final Cut Express, and he was like, please show me how to use this. And so he was showing me, and he saw me reach over to my mouse to do something, and he almost like, it was like he slapped my wrist and called me a mouse whore. Mouse whore, man. And I was just like, to this day, I still have this vivid memory of him slapping my wrist, so that when I'm teaching somebody else a program where they can be a little more efficient, which is what his objective was, you're a lot more efficient if you use a keyboard instead of reaching over to the mouse. I in my mind, I hear mouse whore in the back of my head, and I literally still jump,
Well, because that's the thing is, especially with the video editing, you start moving that mouse too much. I mean, you just,
Yeah,
the hotkeys. The hotkeys are really the key
there you
to
go.
the quick and efficient video editing. And then I learned more of the hotkeys for other products, and it's just better. Like you have,
It's more efficient. It's like you're a pianist, on the keyboard and working very efficiently. And I totally get that now. You trained me in that manner, and I applied it to other areas. And not other people react as well as I did when you did that to me, but it is. I still live by those rules.
I mean, it's efficiency. Efficiency is always awesome.
Okay.
But so today, what we're doing, we're not talking about Apple or Final Cut. We are talking about movies. And this version of Fanboy Junction, we talk about. Hold on. Oh, it went away. Okay, that's awesome. But we're talking about movies, and we're talking about your favorite movie, and your shirt actually gives away the movie, and that is Aliens, directed by James Cameron.
James Cameron, yeah.
Now, most of the time we kind of get into like what brought you into your fandom, whether it was comic books, movies, cartoons, but memory serves, you're mainly a movie guy. Like you were not a comic book person from the past. Like, did you do comic
not
books
as much?
kid?
You're right. I mean, I did collect comics for a while, but then I've gotten away from it just because life and family and different things. But movies have always been a staple of my life.
And is this your favorite in the genre, or is this your favorite movie of all time?
Well, and I guess when you ask people, what's your favorite movie, and people have a lot of favorite movies, because you're right, there's different genres. But when people ask, what is the movie that if you're channel surfing and it comes on, no matter what part of the movie it's on, will you stop and watch the rest of the way? That to me is the definition of, is that one of your favorite movies? And that is, I love sci-fi. It's got horror. It's got, action. It's just a really great movie that I enjoyed, that came out in 1986 when I saw it. I'd seen the original Alien, which I thought was pretty good, and then they carried it over. And this was just a different take on how they approached that franchise. And I loved it. And plus, James Cameron, who had directed the Terminator. You know, this was the movie after that he did, you know, from Terminator. And I just love this movie. You know, like I said, again, you know, if I see it on the channel, no matter what scene it is, I'll sit there and watch it. And then my wife sees me mouthing the lines as I'm watching it, you know.
Yeah. Now, so you did see these movies in order. You saw Alien.
Yep.
And then Alien 2.
Right.
And I don't know if how many more there are.
There's 3. I mean, I think after the second one, it just kind of went downhill. Like most franchises will do that.
Yeah, you can do so many different things, and then after that, the difference gets kind of weird.
Yep.
Or you have to remake the previous. But anyway, so I remember, I think I saw half of the first one late at night at somebody's house, and then I never went and saw the second one in the theater because I used to be deathly afraid of aliens. Like just the idea of alien abduction and all that, and so it scared me. And then one day my buddy was like, dude, this movie is so awesome. It's not scary. It's a military guy, and we used to always play G.I. Joes together. He's like, you gotta watch this movie. So I finally like rented it and watched it, and it did freak me out. But I was like, okay, no, I see. Because the other one was real. You know, the first one it scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah, that was horror. I mean, that was just so much apprehension in the movie, being in dark corners and whatever.
So I do love this movie. It is one of those movies that I have got. You know, I'll visit every so often. It's not my top 10, but it is my favorite James Cameron movie.
Really? Favorite James Cameron? Okay, I would thought you when I said like Avatar or something, but you know,
No, this and then probably True Lies and Terminator will switch for second place depending on how I'm feeling.
There you go.
So I really like this one. But so did you see this in the theater?
I did. I remember my buddy had gone back to school in Austin. I think it was right at 1986. He had graduated. He didn't finish college. His name was Al Puente, and he went back to St. Edward's University, and he was up there, and he goes, dude, this movie's coming out. It's called Aliens. And I go, Aliens? Like from the first Alien? He goes, yeah, let's go see it. So I would always typically drive up to Austin. So I drove up there. We went to like, I think a 10 o'clock showing at one of the theaters over there. I mean, and we just like came out of the movie like, oh my, I mean, it was just like, we couldn't stop talking. We couldn't stop talking for the next 4 or 5 hours about how fantastic it was, you know, because like you said, it had the military in there. It had the original Alien in there. It had strong characters. I mean, I loved, you know, even today, I think the military tech that they had back then that they were using, and that's what things that draws to me. Like they had cameras mounted on their shoulders, which, you know, people do now as GoPros, but back then in '86, they had, and even the militaries today, you know, they will have those when they're going on their special ops mission that they can watch. But these guys already had it. They had lights. To me, they had a mixed merge of the helmets that, you know, the gear that they wore. They weren't like, and don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't like lasers and blasters and stuff, but these were, you know, powdered weapons, you know, that fired bullets, and that, you know, M41A pulse rifle. That just, oh God, that was just awesome. And it was just it looked like a M16 on steroids that I just loved. And it was like, man, this, and then the APC unit, and then the drop ships, and the Sulaco big battleship. And just, I mean, I think, you know, it's funny you said G.I. Joes, because I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the military, but he wasn't combat. But to see that kind of stuff, and I've always loved the combat army movies too, and to have that mixed in with aliens, you know, it was just like, wow. And so, like I said, we were just like blown away. And I think I saw it like another 4 times afterwards, which was rare, you know, to see it more than twice at the theaters. You know, then you'd wait till it comes out on VHS back then. But, oh God, I did. I saw it a couple times on theater. And then even, I want to say they re-released it in 2001 or 4 at the IMAX, an IMAX version. And, you know, you've seen the movie, you know that, you know, when you go to the IMAX theater, your peripheral vision is just full. Now imagine sound traveling left to right, you know, in there when you're watching this movie, when the face hugger was in the med lab and it was crawling across the screen, and you're literally like, well, you know, you're following it with your head at an IMAX theater. So it's still, to me, it still stands up really well in today's, you know, movie area.
Well, and there was no CGI. So some of those movies of that era that had CGI, and it doesn't quite.
Practical effects, yeah,
but it's all practical, so it holds up. So I think it's really cool. So then, with that in mind, who is your favorite character in this movie?
Gosh, you know, a lot of people would say like, well, you know, there's Ripley, the strong character, and you go for the standout characters. I think my favorite character would probably be Hudson, and he was the private that was always wisecracking, you know. And for people that haven't seen the movie, he brought a lot of comedy relief to such tense situations in the movie, and I think that's what I appreciate, because I myself use comedy as a defense mechanism. Whenever I'm in a tough situation, I'll crack a wise ass joke, but to listen to him break up the fear with like, game over, man, game over, or like, why don't you put her in charge, but then he redeemed himself at the end, on how he decided what he was going to do. And I think a lot of people would say like, well, Hicks, he was the Lieutenant Hicks who took over and helped everybody, and Ripley, and then Vasquez. But it's like, really Hudson to me personally stood out from his humor. And that's why I really, really enjoyed his character.
Hudson's the character where
Bill Paxton.
We all want to be Hicks.
Right.
But
right.
most of us would probably be Hudson. And the moment
Exactly.
things went like really, really bad, because it's easy to have all that bravado when there's nobody who's standing against you. When you're a colonial Marine and everything you face has easily been taken care of, or there may have been a gunfight, but you're always on top, it's easy to have that. But to get in a situation where like, you ain't winning. Like, you ain't winning. You are not winning that situation. It's just, that's when people really start to crack.
That's a very good point. I think he was saying what everybody was thinking.
Yeah.
Because if you were put in that situation, you want to be the one, puff up your chest and, chamber around and get ready to go out into the hallway. But he's like, no way, man, I ain't going. Let him go. It's like,
Bishop should go.
Bishop,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, man.
Now, do you watch commentaries? Do you watch behind the scenes stuff? Have you ever gotten the quadrilogy Alien set?
I mean, I have the special edition of Aliens, that adds extra footage, but I'm not a big, I'm not a big fan of having a director lead me through his vision of a movie by laying his overhead commentary onto the film, because to me, that's like watching a movie with subtitles, especially if it's Spanish, because I'm bilingual. And if I'm watching a movie with subtitles, my brain is hearing and translating, but then I'm reading and trying to translate if those two things match. So to hear a director do the commentary for the entire movie, I'm not a big fan of that. Now, if he's explaining, I know this is a part we wanted to use, but we couldn't or whatever. But if they have, some additional footage that help explain the story a little bit, why a character did this, I'm all on that. And deleted scene and gag reels, obviously, because they're hilarious to watch, but not the director commentary as much.
Yeah, and I think director commentaries, some of them are great, and some of them, like I've been like halfway through or partway through and be like, I'm just gonna watch a movie. I think the worst commentary, besides Tim Burton's on Sleepy Hollow, the worst one was Arnold Schwarzenegger and John Milius doing the commentary on Conan the Barbarian.
Yes,
you could tell they haven't watched it in years, and they're just sitting there drinking and watching their movie, and like absolutely no insight. So but no, there's some cool behind the scenes stuff. Because I guess probably around that time, like 2004, 2005, I got the quadrilogy set, which is before Blu-rays. So it's 4 DVDs of the movies and then a DVD of extra stuff for each single film. But it was of that time, so it was all the actors come back and tell their stories about how they got involved, and it was really cool because there was stuff where like there was somebody else who was originally Hicks, and then that guy got fired.
Michael.
It was James Remar.
James Remar. Thank you. I was gonna say Remar, the guy from what was that gang movie? He was in there. He breakout role in that gang, The Warriors.
Yeah,
he was the tough guy in The Warriors, and he's done some other character stuff like in 48 Hours, the first 48 Hours. So I was really surprised, and I could see him as that character. But I really think because of, again, how this movie with James Cameron, who had done Terminator, who had Michael Biehn as the hero in that movie, and then he moved over, it was easy for me to accept him in that role because he was very, he wasn't this tough macho bravado guy. He was vulnerable as well, but he knew what he had to do and he did it, and I think that's kind of what was in Terminator, and that's what endeared him to me in this movie of Aliens.
Yeah, and his involvement's kind of funny because he talks about like he literally got a call one day and was like, "Hey, do you have your passport ready?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, you're going to get a call back here in about 20 minutes. And he gets a call back, and it's James Cameron. He's like, "You have your passport ready?" He's like, "Yeah, cool. Fly out Monday. You start filming." It was just that quick. And he just goes, "If my passport hadn't been in order, I wouldn't have gotten the part because they filmed it all in
London.
London."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of fun stories about that we'll get in that we don't need to get into. If you're a big fan of the movie, you know all
You
that stuff.
know
Watched all
exactly.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can't. I'm personally a Hicks guy, but because I think that's who I am, even though I'm probably more like Newt, or run and hide in tunnels and hope nobody finds me.
Survive. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Survive.
So with that in mind, do you have a favorite scene in this movie that you can watch it all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple ones, but I think the best one is obviously for me is at the end, when they're going to get run over, when they're in the medical lab and they've barricaded the door. That's their Alamo. They're there waiting for the aliens to come in. They're starting to breach the door, and Hudson has the motion tracker out, and he goes, they're 20 meters, and in your head you're going, okay, what is that in feet? You're trying to figure that out. 10 meters, 9 meters, and they go, that's in the room, man. And it's like, you're not reading it right, and you're starting to go,
right, it's reading right, man.
Man, you read it, whatever, and then you figure out that the realization is that they're in the ceiling. And they come down, and then that whole scene was choreographed so well, because in the original Alien movie, that alien was very stealthy. He moved around, and he's just like a spider. He'd wait and then he'd strike. I mean, in this scene, I love the way they did it, because they used the muzzle flashes of the pulse rifles to illuminate the red background, and in those it gave a strobe effect. And you would see the aliens almost hopping like kangaroos in the background, how they were moving really fast. And I was just mesmerized by that. And of course, there's so much going on. Burke runs away, leaves Ripley there with Newt. Vasquez, just a total BA, running around, covering everybody's backs. And then Hicks is doing this roll over while he's shooting an alien coming. And then Hudson, that's where he redeems himself. He's firing at everybody. He's just standing there, come through me. And he's like, oh, you want some? You want some? And then he gets pulled down at the end. And I mean, I'm getting chilled just talking about it, because it's just like, I loved it, the way it pulled him down. And then, that to me was just such a very, I can't even imagine how long it took to shoot something like that, because from the beginning, when they came through the roof, I mean, it was just nonstop. And that was one of my favorite scenes. I mean, there are so many other ones that are comical and what they do. You could say, like, at the very end, when she fought here with the power loader and the fights the Queen, which another thing, the Queen, that was another thing that was brand new to the series, where you're like, yeah, where are these eggs coming from? Oh, okay, now I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And it was just like fantastic. But I just love that action scene, because that was full on action. And just everything they did, the characters, all the way to where that scene ended, where Newt was captured by the alien. I mean, there's a whole thing with Vasquez and Gorman and tunnels and stuff like that. It was just like, you were like, oh, they got out of there. And it's just, I love the way Cameron paced that. He had these little jumps and spurts, and then all of a sudden you take a pause and then you start over again. And and let's not even talk about James Horner's music, God rest his soul. Poor guy. I just love. I'm also a soundtrack guy, and to me, that soundtrack did everything for it. And I think he was doing that before what we would call nowadays sound design, where it wasn't really a lot of music, but it was like maybe a horn that would sound and just make you feel like, whoa, what is that? What does that mean? There's something in the corner, because now Hudson's looking over to the corner thinking, what is over there? So, I mean, all that put together is that one medical lab scene is what I love the most in that movie. That was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, that I always think about that, like, meow, that music that plays every time you see an alien.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you got me. It's calm down.
I mean, and it even sounds like there's a guy with a hammer hitting an anvil, ting, 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 doing that number, and it was just so unnerving, all the quick action. And like I said, the pulse rifle fires, like strobes and things moving, just so much to take in that you just kind of like, oh, you just
Yeah.
relax. And you start the whole
And then you
scene.
realize like, oh no, we don't get to relax.
Yeah, exactly. And
We
that's what
just
I
have to
love
go.
about it. It was an
Yeah.
adrenaline rush because, the first movie, was really, about introducing the alien and what it does to people. But again, it was like a spider waiting for the fly to come into the door and it would capture them. This, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they had to do. They didn't know what they were in for,
Yeah.
but they knew what the mission was. And then slowly but surely they get picked off, just like it should be in every movie. But then the person at the end is the one that, perseveres, but at what cost,
Yeah. No, you're never going to get any argument from me on this movie. Like really seriously, like it is one of those movies that I'll rewatch. I think I rewatched it maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I think I
Really?
went through and watched the movie, but it's one of those I've watched since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like once I finally got over my fear and started watching it, I watch it all the time. This one and the first one not as much. This is my favorite of the Alien movies. Is the second.
I'm totally with you on that. I'm totally with you on that.
So,
On the first one and this one.
The first one, I think the problem with the first one to me is that because it's such a slow burn, slow burns only work when you don't know what's happening. So like I'll
Right.
watch the first one like once every 5 or 10 years. Like I've got to really try and get it out of my head as much as possible before watching it again. But the funny thing was is I showed it to my wife probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and she just literally just like I don't know if she just wasn't invested, if it was just too old and she couldn't do it, and it just did nothing for her. Now she loved Aliens, but the first one she just like it's not scary. It just was not scary.
Really?
But I'm wondering if because she'd seen Aliens, it's a different thing to see Aliens second. Maybe it's a change of perspective, but it was weird because I'm just like, how are you not freaking out? But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, I think they're two different movies. Like I said, the common characters and things that are in there are like the alien, Ripley, and then just how it all works. But it is two different types of movies because I love the way you identified the first Alien. It was a slow burn. It really was. It built up and it would catch you off guard. But then the second one, I mean, that was like a roller coaster ride. I mean, it was just like you knew if you saw the first movie what happened, and if you didn't, you got a couple of good backstory input in from the Alien movie. And then it just started going like this, up and down, just like we were talking about earlier about all the different scenes where you'd pause and relax, and then something would happen. And again, I really think the sound design or the music that James Horner had back there just evoked so much emotion, which is what you want in a movie. You want to evoke emotion, and that did it. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, no, he does a great job with that soundtrack. It really, I think I had that soundtrack for a while.
Oh, I have it. What's funny, there's this one at the very end, where I think Ripley has already gotten Newt, and they get up to the platform and the music's going because she's rushed all the way up there, and then Bishop is not there, and then they finally he gets there and he gets on board, and if you're in it's just building up, it's building up. I mean, to this day, and I told my wife, because when I hear music, I see images in my head. I keep thinking when my mom was alive, my wife was always worried that we better make sure the house is clean if she ever comes over. You don't want the mother-in-law to put her finger on find a trail of dirt or whatever, but that I'm on the phone and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, Mom, you're on your way over here," and all of a sudden that Bishop's countdown starts and we're running around trying to clean the house, and that's what it is. It's real frantic, and to this day I still think about that. My wife, she goes, "Whatever, yeah, I'm never going to have the house dirty like that for your mom," and God rest my mom's soul, it never happened, but I still think about that because of the way it makes me think and do stuff.
Yeah, wives are always like that. My wife's like that with my mom. Like my mom loves you, and I'm her like golden child. Even if it was totally trash, my mother would be like, "Hi, I love you." Like I don't have to clean the house for my mom. Like
Right.
She doesn't care. She wants to hang out with her grandkids.
Amen. Yes, that's what my mom was.
You know how that goes. You know that goes.
Yes, I did. That's how Grandma was.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just gonna do something real quick.
Okay.
Because I realized that the piece of paper I have in my hand is not the piece of paper I need. So, yay! You get to watch me look up something real quick. Because I was like, oh yeah, I got the piece of paper, and I pulled it out, and then I started looking at it. And I was like,
No, that's not it. That's
this
the
is
grocery
the
list.
Bible scriptures I'm supposed to be
Wow.
memorizing.
I hope you don't edit that out.
Yeah, I know, right? This will be edited out, trust me. And what's worse is like neither one of these phones have enough power to keep recording.
Oh no.
So I'm like, this sucks. So I'm just got to really make sure that what we do is nice.
Well, see, and I pulled out my A game. Look at the background. I have a blue background.
It looks beautiful, brother. It looks
I'm using my
beautiful.
DSLR, and that's what my wife was saying. Don't worry about it. Just speak your mind. I said, I know, but it's not like I'm in the industry, but I know of it and what to do, and that's what I might as well talk the talk. Walk the walk if I'm going to talk the talk.
You're doing
Plus,
great.
my wife's gonna be like, so you are using the stuff you buy, and I go,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You know that. You know
yeah.
that.
You better not use that crap. All right, let me see here. Doom, boom, boom. Then I got to go to one more. Okay, that's it. And then I think
See,
I
while
have
you're
the other
doing
thing.
that, I'm going to change something on my. This temperature swings in San Antonio. It's like it's 80 degrees outside right now, and it's like,
Yeah.
really? I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's been a little nuts. Let's see.
It's crazy.
Okay, there we go. All right, I'm ready
Hold
to
on,
go when you are.
Let me just get this squared away. There we go. I'm ready, sir.
Okay. So, let me try again.
Happy to talk to G. Take 2.
I know. So glad I have to edit this. Yeah, it's okay. They're right here. I don't know why I lost.
Right here, yeah.
It's just like one of those. Like, wait, that wasn't the question. Why did I read that one? Okay. So as much as you love this film, if there was one thing you could change about it, what is the one thing you would change?
I thought a lot about that, and one of the things that I didn't like was, these are colonial crack Marine squad, right? And the way they would talk to their leader and just be so disrespectful. I thought about, that's something that I would change, because if they're this crack unit, remember, we're talking about these guys that are fully prepared, know what they're gonna do. Even their gear is just phenomenal that they're wearing. I love the gun that the Vasquez and Snow had that were on basically, a Steadicam vest. They were wearing a Steadicam vest.
Yeah.
And oh my God. But all this firepower, but they were so disrespectful to these people. And not that I come from a military background, but I was in ROTC in high school, and I was going to go into the military. So I kind of appreciated that. And I didn't like that. And then I started thinking more about, well, maybe that's why they didn't survive, because they didn't work as a cohesive unit. So that maybe helped, that because they were being that disrespectful and it didn't appear to care about the chain of command and stuff. That's something that would have changed, because how could they be in the military and be allowed to be that disrespectful? That was probably the only thing I would change, because, I could say that I wanted to have other characters stay alive, but no, I mean, this is you get decimated by a far superior alien because you're not doing what you should be doing. You don't have common sense, and that usually is what happens in most movies like this. You don't have enough common sense. Like, oh, I hear a noise outside. Let me go outside. Oh, my flashlight's not working. Oh, I'll go outside anyway. They were doing stuff like that, and I think that would be the only thing I would change, is that fact, because I really enjoyed the movie, other than maybe closing a loop on how Burke ended up. Burke, the company guy that took him over there, was responsible. I think in one of the, we're talking about bonus commentary and director's commentary, there was actually a scene that they had filmed where she found Burke in the wall, but that wasn't included in a lot of this stuff. It's because they never really finished it out.
Yeah, I think it was in the script.
Yeah, it was in the script, and they filmed it. You can find it if you go on there. You can actually find that scene, but it's like one of those where it was pre-visualization, so they didn't really finish it out. They didn't put a whole lot of audio, but I thought that would be such a great way to finish his character, other than leaving everybody were in the medical lab by himself, locking the door, turning around, and then opening the door and seeing that one alien, and he just goes,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, maybe I'm being a little more morbid and hateful that I wanted to see him deteriorate, but because like they did in the first Alien movie, that was the same thing. They found, the
Tom Skerritt.
commander, yeah,
Yeah.
Tom Skerritt's character, he was stuck in the wall and full of maggots and stuff like that. But to your earlier question, it would be how the Marines, reacted to their officer and the whole process.
No, I understand that, and I think it's kind of weird because I've known a couple of military people, and like I think they're very loyal to their sergeant, but the lieutenant changes out so many times, and when they're stupid enough to not do the things they're supposed to do, and they get people killed, the soldiers really, really hate them and treat them like crap. So, but at the same time, I do think they kind of go a little overboard with the let's just kill him. Like, oh, hold on. But yeah, no, definitely. Now, I know you're not an actor per se.
Right.
You've been in.
This is very uncomfortable for me. I prefer to be on the other side of the camera.
You had a very small role in one of my movies.
Yes.
You got a
very small.
Like arrested or something. I can't remember.
I did. I got arrested. I got thrown against a brick wall of my house, and you tried to put handcuffs behind my back.
You just too. But let me ask you this. If you could play a role in this, I know you've already said your favorite character, but if you could play a role in this movie, what character would you play?
It would be Hudson. Just because I could associate with him. Because, again, it's not that, I think at the very beginning of the movie, everybody kind of thought he was a wuss and he just, like, he's not worth anything. And like I said, at the end, he redeemed himself. And I think that's something that I find very pleasing that I can relate to. So I would want to play him because, it's not that I'm not the bravado guy that would help protect everybody and do the right thing, but because of my personality, I diffuse situations with humor, and that helps me get through my life. Anything from, a job interview, a tough situation at work, raising kids, talking to your wife about when was our anniversary, stuff like that. That helps me, and so I think that's who I would want to play. Would be Hudson, because at the end, hopefully at the end of my life, people will remember me for what I've done, and that I made some mistakes, but I finally redeemed myself at the end.
Ultimately, I was a good man, so please.
There you go.
Don't tell dumb stories at my funeral.
That would be it. So Hudson.
Okay, I got it. That's a good one. I like that guy. All right, so now that we're talking about recasting,
okay,
this movie, we're gonna get into the reboot, and this is something that I've it'll be interesting to see if I can surprise people with this after this. But what I did is I asked everybody, what's your favorite movie? I have reformatted this podcast, and then I let everybody pick their movie. And then once they pick it, then I say, oh, this is part of the thing.
Right.
And some people have one person straight up denied, would not do it. We just got into a different conversation. I did my list. And I think another person might go that route. We'll just have to see. But you were like, yes, let's do this. So we're going to go through this. I don't know how deep you went. I went Apollon, Vasquez, Gorman, Hudson, Bishop, Burke, Newt. No, I didn't cast Newt. Hicks and Ripley, and then picked a director. Is that who you recast, or did you do anywhere near that many people?
I did this almost the same thing you did, because if you think about it, at the very beginning, that troop of Marines, that squad, I should say, they lasted for the first few minutes, like 10, 15 minutes of the movie, and then they were out. And then you had the other characters that stuck around, and those are the ones that I focused on. So you're right. I did the same thing.
All right, perfect. Well,
but I will say this. It was a very hard for me to think of a reboot, because I did some research. I did start to get online. Do you use older characters? Because I'm an older guy. These whiskers that I have. Do I use older characters that I know, or do we use new characters? Like someone says, I even quizzed some of my friends, and I said, well, who would you think if you wanted to recast them? And they were naming people from the Avengers, characters. And it's like, oh, and of course I didn't even think about that, but that's the world we live in, because I have to think, like you said, if we were to reboot and do it now, who would you use? So it was very hard. I almost said, no, I wouldn't recast it. I mean, I wouldn't reboot it. I would not, because I think it's perfect the way it is. Well, almost perfect.
Well, and the thing that's interesting with this one, and I'm not saying, because we had a very specific conversation about you are casting this movie.
Right.
And unlike, because I had to do Star Trek 2. the Wrath of
Oh,
Khan.
ooh.
And trying to cast that
They already
movie.
did that, by the way.
No. We did it. We did it right. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
No. Well, part of it was that is like, no, we're not casting because it's taking the script. It's not reimagining it because Star Trek Into Darkness, is that what it's called? Whatever that.
Yes, and that's where you say Star Trek end of edge,
Yeah.
and then you just turn around and go, you know.
Yeah. All they did was try and hide what they were doing, but they just did it. So this was more like, no, you've got the original script of Star Trek to the Wrath of Khan. You have to make the script.
Okay.
So with that, having the whole thing about like, okay, well, all these people are middle-aged then. Like you're not recasting a brand new young cast that's going to start this movie franchise. You're 15 years into it. So it's very interesting doing that. So with that in mind, doing this, going like, yeah, we're not doing Alien, but we do have to cast Ripley, who could potentially go, or maybe she made that movie. You know, we maybe move that movie again. You know, it was just weird. Point being, it wasn't super difficult, but you're right. Like you're casting actors and characters that are age appropriate.
Right.
You know, you don't want to be like, well, I'll just reuse Michael Biehn. Yeah, but he's 60. He
Yeah.
would not be able to play this part, you know, because there was one way I had to do where the movie was only like 10 or 12 years old. And it's like, with the exception of the two leads, everybody could still play their parts because the two leads are supposed to be teenagers. Beyond that, it's like, no, all those people could just come back and do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Do it
That
better.
much has changed, you know. So, all right. So, with all that in mind, let's go through this real quick. Well,
so
not
are we
real
gonna do it? You give me your character, and then
We'll
I
go
give
back
you
and
mine?
forth.
Got it.
Go back and forth. So we're going to start with Apone. Who did you pick for Apone, which is the sergeant?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
No,
wanted that little salty character like this Apone guy was, and you know, to have somewhat of a military background. And to me, Michael Keaton just has aged phenomenally. You know, I hate people that age and get thinner. You know, not like me that goes the other way around. So I loved the roughness of Michael Keaton. You know, as a leader, as a sergeant, Apone.
well, and if you've seen American Assassins, or
Exactly.
American Assassin,
Thank you. You're
yeah.
absolutely. And I love those books. By the way, I love those stories. You're right. You know, Vince Flynn books. I love them, and they made that movie, and I was like, yeah, but I love this character in it.
Yeah, and so I could totally see that. So I went a little weird. You're probably not going to know who this guy is. His name is Kari Payton. He voices Cyborg in the Teen Titan and Teen Titans Go cartoon, but he's also in the Walking Dead show.
I've seen The Walking Dead. I stopped watching it after they
yeah.
didn't kill off, you know, Negan, and then I stopped watching it.
He's the one with the real long dreads.
Yes.
Gray dreads. That's
yes.
him.
Okay.
That's him. And the reason I pick him is because people know, even though they know him from that, they also know people love him from the Teen Titans and all the voice he does, because he does Cyborg hilariously. And I'm like, you know, to cast him in that role and then he dies, people would lose their minds. Like, no, not him. He's my boy. Well, you just killed my boy. So I thought that would be kind of funny.
Good pick. I can see, and you know, and that's the other challenge with recasting. You know, is do you recast people that are mirrors of those characters that you see them, or do you recast them in the hopes that they could bring a little more edge to it and still maintain that character? And that's kind of where I was coming from when I did Michael Keaton. You know, I could have gone with somebody of the same race, but I thought, I'm sorry, race is the wrong word. I apologize. But, you know, that could be black, like Terry Crews, you know, but he was too young. And like I said, I had this list and I was going through it. And as a matter of fact, just before I came on here, I decided to strike you the other characters that I decided not to go with. Because I even thought of like, you know, Kevin Costner, you know, because of his grit and stuff. And I thought, no, that's just, and then I thought Michael Keaton, you know. So I'm really glad to hear we're on the same page on a lot of this stuff.
My thing with a lot of this casting, because I've done so many of them, is I'm like, if the character is supposed to be an ethnicity, I try to stick with ethnicity, even if it means like I did Highlander, and like Ramirez is supposed to be Egyptian, and then lived in Spain, and then he goes to the Highlander. How that turned into a Scottish accent, I have no idea.
Yeah, God rest his soul. You know.
Yeah. So I cast an actor who would look Egyptian.
Okay. Yeah.
So to me, but then I almost cast somebody else as the Kurgan, who is a different ethnicity to white. But then as I watched the movie, I was like, oh, he's supposed to be from Russia. He has to be white. So That's all. That was kind of part of my process. I don't know why I went to that long story. All that
No,
to
no, good.
say that I picked Rosa Salazar to be Vasquez.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
See, and my first thought for Vasquez was Michelle Rodriguez because I thought she's just born to play that. But then I thought, no, everybody would nod their heads. But if I said Gina Carino, the MMA fighter that's turned actress, just because she's got the chops, she's got the strength. I mean, if you ever seen her in Haywire, it's like, oh my God, this woman is just like fast and furious. Not so much now as in The Mandalorian, but I immediately thought of another character, like I said, Haywire, and I thought she would be perfect in this. So
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, that's what
I
I'd go with.
have no problem with that. Like the only thing would be she'd probably, I hate to be this way, but lean out if she's supposed to portray a Marine. But other than that, I think she's got enough acting chops to pull a character off.
Yeah.
It is that kind of tough and tumble person. So I don't know if you know, but Rosa Salazar played Alita in the Battle Angel Alita movie.
Yes.
I know it's all CG. You can barely recognize her. She's been in other stuff, but I was just like, I thought that would be cool.
Yeah,
All right.
interesting.
So Gorman, I cast a guy named Joe Keery.
Joe Keery.
And I don't know who he is. He's somebody I just randomly picked because I thought he looked age appropriate. Because I don't think the guy they cast as Gorman in this particular movie looks as young as he's supposed to look. Because Gorman is a lieutenant, and this is only his real first or second operation. So he should not look the same age as everybody else. So Joe Keery looks like he's in his early 20s, and everybody else is like that late 20s, 30s time age. So that was the only big thing with him. Was I liked it because he was a little. Wait, you know what? Who the heck is Joe Keery? Why do I feel like I should know him, and his name is just escaping me? I'm gonna look it up because this makes good television. Duh! He's the guy from Stranger Things. That's right. He's the guy with the crazy good hair from Stranger Things.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right.
So him as Gorman, a young Gorman, so you really get how incompetent he actually is. Because I think if you're not paying attention, you don't know why he sucks. If you just listen, if you're just watching the movie, you kind of maybe miss it. So I think to make him a little bit younger, then you really understand this guy's just so green, he's going to mess this up horribly.
Interesting. That's an interesting, I never thought of Gorman's ineptitude due to his age because I thought he was older. I looked at him as a very polished, politically correct soldier that went through the ranks, got promoted, but like you said, didn't have the combat experience, but wanted to try to be a combat leader, and he wasn't. And so I didn't think of his age as being what caused him to fail miserably in the movie. For me, it was because he didn't know what he was doing. He lived he had a silver spoon in his mouth. And so to that effect, the person that I thought would be a good character for Gorman would be a younger Ben Affleck. If he would lean, cut down, lean, just because he's got that, what I didn't know when he played the accountant, that was different, a whole totally different story, but he's also bulked up as Batman. I think a leaner Ben Affleck would make a great Lieutenant Gorman because you can look at him and just not take him seriously. And that's one of the reasons I thought it wasn't about age. It was more about that.
Yeah.
He had a silver spoon in his mouth. He grew up and he got where he wanted because daddy and mommy got him there. And that's what I felt Gorman. So I think Ben Affleck would be my choice.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense because it ultimately is supposed to be an experience than an age.
Yeah.
But I wanted to double down.
Good for you. No. I had never thought of it from that perspective. That's a unique angle. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So Hudson is my next one. I went I kind of broke the age thing in a way, but I really like this guy. I picked Zachary Levi to be Hudson.
Zachary Levi.
The guy who just played Shazam.
Oh,
he was at Chuck.
Yes. Just
because he could be that good-looking bravado guy and have a lot of fun, and then when everything goes wrong, he just loses his mind and he's not sure what to do because that happens in Shazam. Have you seen Shazam?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen Shazam.
I can't
sadly
suggest you do, but because he's basically a 15-year-old in the superhero's body. A similar thing like with Hudson. Once he runs into something that can actually fight him, he loses his mind and just starts running away and throwing things at him and almost crying as he's trying to get away from him. So to see him do that, I was like, no, I think Zachary Levi as Hudson would be pretty cool.
Good choice. I think for me, Hudson in the movie Aliens, I had a couple of people. I was trying to see if I should look at him from a comical perspective, kind of like I mentioned earlier. But then I thought this one person stuck out, Shia LaBeouf, was who stuck out for me because, you know, you can look at him and, you know, he can be vulnerable and not want to do what he wants to do because he doesn't, even now to me, he doesn't seem like a dependable person, you know, but then there are moments when he does something that, you know, to redeem himself, kind of like I was saying about the character. So my choice would be Shia LaBeouf.
Oh no, you watch something like Fury and you could
Yep,
see it would be a different kind of Hudson, but you could see like how he would be that guy who's like, no, fine, yeah, why would we go out there?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but you'd also get that. Yeah, you get that comedic that he doesn't use it as much, but get that like, no. Why are we out here right now? We got to get inside.
yeah. So,
but no, I think that would be cool. All right, Bishop. For Bishop, I went a little weird, just because I think he's kind of sometimes does some interesting stuff. Jeremy Renner as Bishop.
Ooh, Jeremy Renner. You know, I had him as another character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting you use him as the artificial intelligence, you know, Bishop. That's a very good choice because, you know, I could see him being very stone-faced, you know.
Yeah, have you seen The Town?
The Town
with Ben Affleck, and when he and Ben Affleck are the bank robbers.
No, I haven't. That's on my. Believe it or not, that's on my list. It's an older movie. I know, but
it's a good movie, and he's one of he's playing a character where you could just tell he's just not there. Something's off about him. So thinking about that, I was like, Bishop, for the most part, for the first 85% of that movie, he plays like something's not right.
Yep.
So I
was expecting him to snap because remember, you were thinking about him in the first movie, how he snapped, and you always thought when he'd look up and just have this expression on his face that, all right, this is where somebody's going to die, you know, and going to shove a rolled up news magazine in their mouth or something.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's what I thought, like, that would be cool. All right. So who'd you pick for Bishop?
So for Bishop, I had a couple of choices, and the one that I ended up with, and why am I drawing a blank? Joseph
Gordon-Levitt?
Yes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I was like, what is that? What's his middle name? That's who I would think could play him a really good because he's got such range in characters, you know, and I think he could give you that stone-faced look, and then at the end, kind of want that acceptance, kind of like Bishop did. You know, I prefer artificial intelligence instead of synthetic. You know, the way he said in the movie. So yeah, that would be my choice. That would be interesting. I really do like him. He's one of those actors where I'm like, you're just picking stuff because you don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Not being weird about it. Like, but like, you know, it's like, oh, okay, now he's gonna go, and then he's like, no, I'm gonna go do this other independent thing. But hey, if he's enjoying it, having fun, I can't knock the guy. But the funny thing about him is, I don't know what we were doing, and we saw a picture of him as a kid, from Third Rock.
No, younger than that, because he's been a child actor forever.
Yeah.
He was in Friends. He plays young Chandler in Friends.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. I remember that.
Yeah. And we saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, does he look like Race? And she's like, no. So then I looked up a picture of him. If you go look up of like young, like a kid, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's like 5 or 6 or something else he was in. He freaking looks like Race. So now every time he does something, I'm like, man, I hope, but man, like this is what Race is going to become, is freaking Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which is fine. Like he's a cool guy, at all accounts. But yeah, that's an interesting choice. I like that idea.
Good.
All right, so what do you got for? Let's see, where are we? We are at Burke. Do you want me to tell you mine or yours?
You go first.
I picked Joe Lotruglio from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes,
he plays dude's best friend. Just for somebody who is just so creepy out there, you know they're slimy, but you kind of have to go along with whatever sliminess they are, because you're thinking maybe he's not as slimy as I think, and then
he did. Then he doesn't. Then you're like, oh, I knew it. You know.
Yeah.
See, and for me, and I have to remember how I wrote it. Oh, there we go. So me for Burke, it's funny you said those characteristics of being slimy and stuff, because like in the movie, he was always sweaty, perspiration on his forehead, which he did, that character did a really good, that actor did a really good job of portraying him, because he was also a wuss. And I thought, what's his name? Cillian Murphy?
Killian, but yes.
Cillian Murphy, the one that played Scarecrow in the Dark Knight movie. He's got that sliminess to him that he could do very easily to someone.
He can turn the ick on real well.
Exactly. There you go. Ick. He's like, it's like he's the one that I picked to play that character.
There's a certain dollar value to this facility. We can't just blow it up. I mean, he's just a grunt. No offense.
No offense. And even if he wore glasses, just to show that fiscal responsibility for the corporation that he works for.
Yeah.
But then he takes it off, and he ends up, being this cowering person that only cares about himself. And, you could see that, again, like I said earlier, when I wished I could see the ending of Burke, it's like, I could see that with this actor.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'll be honest. I did not recast Newt.
I didn't either.
Because I felt like any young kid. Like,
I agree with you. I agree with you on that 100%.
And Girl never did anything besides this movie.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing? And what's funny is, and you probably don't notice this because I've watched it so many times, I thought she was British because of her young. You could hear like a hint of an accent, mostly, at the night when the whole ship crashed. And then to find out she was from Florida and she became a school teacher afterwards, but that she still goes to conventions. To comic conventions, which is, hey, that's a pretty good deal. Hey. I was in a movie at 9 years old and I'm still raking in some cash. Okay, I can do that. So maybe that's a blessing for her.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if it wasn't her thing, but she had fun doing it. And because if memory serves, she was the only American kid. Like, her parents were military, so she was an American kid in London.
Maybe that's
why she has just a little bit of hint, because that's what it is. And
that's right.
Because they wanted her because all the other child actors did child actor commercial stuff. And she was willing to be like dark and depressing. And that was why they liked her, because she had no experience and they could just make her do whatever they wanted. Wow. But yeah, she never did
anything. That's right. Gosh, boy, you're just like schooling me.
Get this. In fact, have you seen the deleted scenes where they show her parents get the thing?
Yes. And again, that's one of the things that if I had to change something in a movie, that they would put that kind of context into the movie to understand that would bridge the gap, even though they kind of say it's LV-426, which is from the original movie, that's how they got there. And then they showed some of the terraformers and stuff like that.
Yeah, because they never show the original ship once the military guys come.
No, exactly.
But no, what I was going to say is the little boy who plays her brother is actually her brother.
Yes.
So I thought that was really cool. So anyway, all right. So then let's go to Hicks. You want to do your Hicks? You want me to do my Hicks?
We already said my Hicks, and it was, Jeremy Renner.
I kind of figured that's where you were going.
That's why I said he's already another person in my, because I thought, again, I thought, well, what about Chris Pratt? But it's like, because he's starting to get into more of a hero typecast kind of thing, but he still has that little character of being comical and stuff like that. So I thought I'll stick with Jeremy Renner but I think, well, when we get to the last one, I think we're going to get to, that's where I'll say the last part of my comment. Who was your pick?
I picked Michael B. Jordan to be Hicks.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Somebody who could play like, because the thing, when I look at Hicks is like, he's a smooth guy. He's just cool under pressure no matter what. And then also, like, he's okay not being the leader.
Yeah.
Like up until everybody, Ripley's like, by the way, he's actually in charge. And he goes, yeah. Like, he wasn't going to be the one to say it. Like, he was not going to step up and be like, no, I'm in charge here, blah, blah, blah. He was just there. But the moment she's like, he's in charge, he's like, yeah, so this is what we're going to do. Blah, 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 I'm in charge. And he steps up. So I think that would be just.
Say we nuke it from orbit.
Yeah. Only way to be sure.
Only way to be sure. Exactly.
Yeah, so I think Michael B. Jordan has that kind
That's a great pick. I love that. That's a great pick.
And it would just be something different, just a little bit different for the character, but I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I just like Michael B. Jordan. Like, he's done some phenomenal stuff.
Yep.
as of late. He's arguably one of the best MCU villains in, Killmonger. The Creed movies, Raising Dion, which is a show he produced, and he plays the dad of the main character in little bits and pieces. He's just always good.
And
I saw
his body is maturing too, just his
yeah.
physique.
So I think he'd be perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect for it. So that was my pick. All right. So
that's a
then,
good pick.
since you were already talking about Jeremy Renner, and you must have something with Ripley, who's your Ripley?
So that was a tough one because my first thought, and if we had to, like, we were talking about how would we cast them, as the character, not as an actor that could bring something unique to the character. And I was thinking of people like Charlize Theron because she's tall like Ripley. She's got a great statuish figure. Which was interesting that Michael Biehn looked shorter than, oh God, I forgot her name. Just
Sigourney Weaver.
Thank you, Sigourney Weaver. When they were in the elevator, it's like, look how small he looks, and then she's
Are you
carrying
sure
him
this
out.
is your favorite movie? If you don't know Sigourney Weaver,
I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm starting to lose. I need to get where are my vitamins? But yeah, no, it was just like, so who else would I pick? And that's a strong character in that movie, and the person that I thought of, oh my God, again, I'm forgetting names. Oh, here we go. Now I remember. Sorry, I had it written down. Emily Blunt, because she could, I don't think Charlize Theron could, even though she's already been in a movie of Alien and Prometheus, but Emily Blunt can convey, the mother instinct and wanting to protect someone, but she could also be a total BA as well in what she needs to do because, in the movies that she's done. And so it's like, yeah, I even thought of like Jessica Biel or Uma Thurman, but they've already been in those kind of movies where they're badasses. And I thought Emily Blunt, I think could again, I think that's what I've been saying all along about this movie is the characters all could be tough, but show vulnerability. And I think Emily Blunt can do a very good job about that.
No, she actually was really good. And that's the thing is like, I think Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, you're saying like the stature makes a difference, but she's not a badass. She gets done what needs to be done. Like if she had never gone back to that planet, she probably never would have ever picked up a gun. She'd have just worked in warehouses and been fine. She wasn't looking for a fight. She wasn't trying to do anything. But the mama bear kicks in, and now I'm going to duct tape some guns together and go retrieve my kid kind of thing goes. And she becomes a BA because of that, but she's not herself a badass.
Exactly. And I think that's the key. That's what, I mean, you're married, you got a wife that has children. I mean, you do something to their children and on a dime, they flip. And I think that's why I really wish they had kept.
No,
yeah. I really wish they'd have kept that scene, that deleted scene where, they say that Ripley was a mother and that she missed her daughter's birthday and then her daughter died 5 years before she was recovered.
Yeah.
And that's why she had that strong bond to rescue Newt, and that's why she protected her. And that's why I think I wish they would have kept that in there because that meant a lot. The other stuff, yeah, there were most of the stuff that they put in the, if you look at the special deleted scenes edition, most of that stuff was at the beginning. Like we were just talking about Newt's parents finding the ship and having the mask, the sentry rifles, and some other stuff that they had. But that one scene about, Ripley missing her daughter, and now she's going and finds a 9-year-old that could be her surrogate. It's like that's what I wish it would have kept. And again, back to what we were saying.
Yeah. Well, no, it's kind of funny because we talked about this before on the phone when we first started talking about this. Is I'm always kind of back and forth on it because I think what they're banking on is that all women want a baby, so that they will naturally, inherently become mama bear to any child that they kind of take in, be it their own child or replacing. So I know why that's taken out, because I think it's inherently in the movie, in our very archaic feelings.
You're
about
archaic.
yeah. Put that on me, thanks. But I think there is I'm trying to think about how to say this. Like, I think to me it puts it too on the nose. You know what I mean? Like, for me personally, it doesn't make the movie I don't feel like I don't know if it made me hope she saves Newt more, knowing
Really?
she lost a
Okay.
daughter. I think
Okay.
I think the only thing it makes me do is like I think because we watched it, and my wife and I had this conversation before about the deleted scenes. Because in the version that I have, you can either watch the theatrical cut or the director's cut. And we watch the director's cut because there's other things in there that I really like. Because they get more into like how long she's been gone and what's going on and what her life is like. And I told Ryan that, and she's like, yeah, it makes the desperation of wanting her to succeed more in a way, but I just didn't feel it. But at the same time, like it does kind of add a little, like, wow, you're a crappy mom. You went off to
Yeah,
work and got stuck, and
you missed your birthday because
yeah,
you're on a derelict spaceship, on a space boat dock for 54 years. It's
yeah,
like, oh my God. So yeah, no, I just, to me, it just closed the gap,
yeah,
and because remember, if, I saw him in Order, and when I saw Alien, and Sigourney Weaver was, this tough second in command that was
yeah,
following all the rules that they should have. Like, again, if they had not just let that guy in, they would have been okay. They'd follow the protocols, but they didn't.
yeah,
And so then I never thought she had a kid. And then when the second movie came out, Aliens, and then you're like, why is she, the only thing I thought she wanted to protect was the cat,
yeah,
that she had with her, and she ended up leaving the cat. But then all of a sudden she gets drawn to this child. She's the one that wants to help her. And then there's tender moment when they find Newt and they put her on the thing, and she's just brain locked, as the Lieutenant Gorman says.
yeah.
And she reaches out, and, I don't know. I guess that to me would have helped a little bit. But,
Well, and I think the other part of it too is like because it's never mentioned in the first one,
yes.
it would
Yeah,
have been
exactly.
weird to like suddenly like, oh, you did have a kid. Well, like in that 6 days of dealing with all that crap, you never went, honey, mommy may not make it home.
Well, they were really far away. Come on, man.
Yeah. So, but no, I get it all. I
Good.
get it all. So my choice for Ripley
Okay. Okay.
is I chose Brie Larson.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Again, and I just was talking to you a little while ago about, like, Avengers universe and stuff like that. That's a good choice. I love that.
It's actually funny. Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson. The moment you were like aliens, I went like I
Really?
knew instantaneously who those two. And I think with Brie Larson is, I mean, obviously phenomenal actress. She's paid her dues. She's won an Oscar, the whole 9 yards. But I think she could play that. Seeing some of the other stuff she's done outside of Captain Marvel, I'm not exactly a fan of her being Captain Marvel, mainly because I didn't think the first movie was that good. I thought she was better in Endgame as Captain Marvel than she was in.
Which, interesting enough, was the first movie that she
Yeah,
filmed, and then it was Captain Marvel.
yeah. So I think I don't know if I liked her in the role, but there is a bit of like, she's tough because she's been forced to be tough, but she's not necessarily tough in a way. So I thought that would be interesting to kind of do for her to play Ripley and to get some, because you really have to have a fantastic actor to do a lot of what's going on there.
To carry that movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And yeah. And, why not? So yeah, that's who I picked.
I like that choice. That's a great choice. I like that. All
right. So
I'm a fan of her as well. So
yeah. So did you pick a director? Who'd you pick as a director?
Yes. So I wanted somebody that knew how to direct action, how to keep the story moving, and good, could put stuff in there that would have memorable quotes, because there are just so many memorable quotes in my mind in Aliens, and some that aren't even, brought up in the movie, like when they were down in the reactor and they took the guns away from them, the ammo and stuff. And he goes, "What are we supposed to use? Harsh language?" It's like, even that little one. And
Yeah.
the one director that comes to mind, even though he's getting a bad rap right now, which I don't know if that's warranted or not, is Josh Whedon.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. He's good with ensembles, and he
Yep.
does like some of the action he did in like the Firefly show and in the Serenity movie, in the Avengers stuff.
Exactly.
I think it'd be good.
And even like when I also knew that he was part of the Buffy spinoff Angel series, and I loved just the little some of the stuff that he would put in there, and it just was memorable to me. And I was like, wow, that attention to detail that he says something so succinctly, like you said, in Serenity, or, you know, in the series and in the movie, you know, it was like, wow, I think he would do a good job again with an ensemble cast.
Yeah, as long as Zack Snyder didn't start it and he finished it, should be fine.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah. So my director, I went completely bonkers. Okay. And you're gonna like it's I know, but this is a guy who every movie he does, you can tell he loves the military. Every film he does, he knows how to do action. The story may be weird, but he does action really well. And I've always liked him. And I think he has those movies. Like if you look at some of his non-huge summer blockbuster films, he can do characterization. He's to me, I like him. And it's Michael Bay. I want Michael Bay all over this thing.
Really? I never would have thought that, because I just don't see it be at his level of expectation. Because when I think of Michael Bay, you're right. It's full out.
You think
he does lots of stuff. You know,
Island Transformers, but
yeah, exactly.
This is the guy who did
Bad Boys,
Bad Boys 2, 12 Soldiers, whatever the one is, where the 13 Soldiers or whatever, where
of the 13 Soldiers of Katskan, or
maybe something like that. It was with John Krasinski.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
That's him. Pain and Gain is him. The Rock
he
is
did
him.
Pain and Gain? Oh my God. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like when he gets away from I have to make billions and gets more into the character stuff, he does a really good job. So that's why I feel like, dude, he would knock it out of the park.
Interesting.
Being the director,
you know, I'm not that's probably one of the ones that I would have to differ with you on, just because of I don't think it's at his level. You know, because, you know, even though Aliens it did really well, you know, and James Cameron, that was his early career stuff. But I don't know. That's an interesting choice. You know, like I said,
it's bonkers. Yeah,
it is bonkers. It is.
Well, because when you look at how much he uses the military and how well he works with them, like my friend was like, he should have never done Transformers. He should have done G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is as close to G.I. Joe as you can get. His do Colonial Marines fighting aliens. So I just think he'd do a good job with it.
See, but again, when we were talking about his style of movies, you know, I'm thinking, you know, when you do that shot where the two characters are standing up and the camera's panning around, around.
Michael B. Jordan, he's got two pulse rifles.
Yeah, exactly. How would you do that? You know, and let's get it on.
You know, circling around, and all the aliens are coming.
All the kind of like we're doing what I'm doing right now. The blue and the orange in the front, or vice versa.
And Zachary Levi's behind him as Hudson. Who wants more?
I can see it now. I'm starting to see it.
I've told you, bro. I'm
starting to see it. Oh, what a great conversation.
Michael B. Jordan's driving the little Humvee thing, and he's like, "You're gonna get that French fry, Hudson."
Oh, man. Excellent.
It'd be great. I'm just saying.
Good job. Oh yeah.
All right. So there we go. We've got our reboot. We've got our recast. We are ready to go. We'll have to see. So part of what's going to be is we're going to see who people will say which one they thought they liked and list it on the page. So ittle be a lot of fun. So now we're going to get into rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So this is just a couple quick ones. First one. If
it's red, don't scratch it. Just put powder on it.
Yes.
Next.
All right. Stones or Beatles?
Stones.
Okay. No. Really?
That's it?
Stones? Stones? Wow. Okay.
The Rolling Stones, right?
Yes, that's a
Rolling Stones. I just want to make sure it wasn't somebody, you know, there's an age difference between us. I want to make sure there's no obscure band that I didn't hear about.
Years, man. It's not that much. All right, so next question. If you could not have talked about this movie, were there other movies you were thinking about doing?
Yes. Oh, do I need to answer that?
What other movie? Sorry. What other?
The Fifth Element.
Okay.
The Fifth Element would be a good one. A Few Good Men would be another good one. So, yeah, there you go. There's two good
Somebody
ones.
picked Fifth Element, but I think they may have gone off the rails. And I had a great casting choice for Fifth Element.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you after.
Okay.
And then let's see. Within the scope of this kind of broad genre of random fan films, the sci-fi, the comic book, the fantasy films, What is a film you think is just so overrated?
I think, and I haven't even seen it, but Shazam.
Okay.
I just don't. I mean, I know of the character, but because I'm a comic book fan, I'm not as deep into it probably as a lot of people. But I mean, I have boxes of old comics. I just think it was overrated. For all the hype that it did, and to that effect, I'm glad I didn't see it, because even you confirmed earlier, not recommending you see it. And now they're coming out with a second one. But I'm older, maybe kids are going to appreciate it. So
if you can find it streaming, I'm not saying avoid it, but I can't say I was like, wow, I'm glad we all went to the theater to watch this, because Race wanted to see it really, really bad, so we had to go take it because he rarely wants to see a movie in the theater. So
somebody told me, it's just the Tom Hanks movie Big, but with superpowers.
kind of, the problem I had with it is that they market it as a kids movie, and it is not.
Oh, really?
Like there's parts of that like it's a PG-13, hard PG-13 for a couple of things that are going on in that movie. And
Okay, then
I was like,
then let me change my answer. If I had to really pick a movie that I saw, it'd be Constantine with Keanu Reeves.
Okay, everybody has their opinions.
I just didn't. I thought that Constantine with Keanu Reeves back then, it was overrated. It was like, okay, he's this guy battling evil demons. It's like, again, a younger exorcist. That's what it was to me. So I think that was very overrated. And I guess my definition of overrated is, will I watch it again? No.
Yeah, no,
I won't watch it again.
All right, so then the flip side of that is, what is a film that you feel like, in this kind of randomness of things we've talked about, like like sci-fi, blah blah, that is underrated? Like you're like, this movie is awesome. Why did this not do better, or why didn't people love this movie to death?
Wow. Serenity.
Yeah.
From the Firefly series.
The fact that DVD series did so well when they put it out, and then nobody went to see that movie.
I just
nobody.
And it's so funny now, Matthew, that I'm picking and choosing what I care to watch in the streaming arena, because so many times I think the production companies of Netflix or Amazon Prime, they're canceling stuff after a season or two, and it's like, what? I just binge watched it and I wanted to see more, and then they cancel. It's like, now I'm a little more hesitant about what I want to put my money into, or time. Not money, I'm paying for a service, but what time I want to put in to watch this. So it kind of scares me. So, and the only reason I bring that up is because what you said about Firefly, the series, one season, phenomenal show, and then the movie came out and it just kind of tied everything back together. But people were like, okay, it was just a movie about the series. It was much more for me. And again, back to the Josh Whedon and the one-liners and how his character build and stuff like that. So I think Serenity was an underrated movie in my mind.
Totally makes sense. All right, let's see. I think that's it, man. I don't know if I have any. I'm just trying to think if I have any other questions. Again, because I lost my notes. I don't know where the heck they were. And most of the questions we've already kind of covered, because we talked about it through the other things. So, I mean, that's it.
Wow. Well, man, I mean, I really appreciate you letting me be on your show. Like I said, I'm always been more comfortable with people who don't know. I'm a photographer. I did great cosplay photos of Mr. Captain America you're looking at right now.
Yeah, if you guys have seen any of my photographs of me as Captain America doing like the cool jump kicks and stuff like that, this is the man that took those photographs.
And I wasn't doing that to plug myself. I was just saying he's great to work with. And I know you've got so much that you're doing. You're doing this podcast. You're doing your cosplaying and stuff like that. You're a working man. You're a loving father, a caring husband. It just amazes me that you're doing all that stuff, and you still have time. Whereas me, I want to be behind the camera. And you're also an actor, and I'm not. I want to be behind the camera so that I can get what I need versus doing this. And I'm so glad that you got me out of my shell, because I tell people, as with this COVID stuff that's happening, I don't know if we're going to date this, the COVID stuff, what has changed is I don't have models to photograph anymore. So guess who has to be a model? Me. I have to be in front of the camera. So this is helping me get out of my shell to understand what I need to do. Instead of looking at my screen, I am looking at the lens, talking to Matthew.
I
So
like
thank
it.
you.
I
I
like
really
it.
appreciate you letting me be on the show.
Hey man, thanks
This
for
was
coming
fun.
out and playing. And we'll see. I don't know how many more we're gonna do, and I may get people come back. So if nobody does Fifth Element, you want to come back and do Fifth Element?
So you're saying there's a chance I could
Yeah.
be on your, I will be, this will be edited and put online. There's a chance. This
Oh,
won't
it's
just be
going.
thrown on a
It's
cutting room
going.
floor.
No, you're there. We're gonna have some fun, man. All right,
Sure.
G-Man, Gilberto. We will check you next time. I appreciate it, man. I really do. See you
Thank you,
later.
my friend. You take care too. All right.